Hi, Vanessa here, and welcome back to my channel. Today is very special because I have author Kimberly Davis Basso here with me, and we're celebrating the launch of her new book, Birth and Other Surprises.
So pretty.
So beautiful. And you'll have to excuse my copy because I marked it all up. So much good stuff in here.
Cool.
So, Kimberly,
yes,
you are an author of two of the books I've read. I'm a Little Brain Dead, Birth and Other Surprises, and a book called Hollow.
Hollow is actually a play. Yep, it's listed, but it's a play. Yes, it's one of my favorites, so I actually stuck it in there.
She's also a finalist for the Indies Book of the Year in Humor and Forward Reviews, and a finalist for Life Stories from the Writer's Digest. So many accomplishments. And I also wanted to show you the cover of I'm a Little Brain Dead as well,
there
her first novel that I read. We had to show the back because the back's important. Yeah.
All the good stuff is on the back, right?
Birth and Other Surprises is launching on February 25th, in just a few weeks away.
Yep.
You've worn so many creative hats in your life, especially in the theater arts industry, everywhere from being a stage director and a playwright to producer.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how it shaped you into the author you are today?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, first of all, I've worn a lot of hats because I'm old. That's what happens when you've been on the planet for a while. So yeah, I think my playwriting in particular and my theater work in particular shapes the way that I write. Mm-hmm. Both of my books are memoirs, and they are first-person direct address. I'm having a direct conversation with the reader, and at least I hope that's what people are experiencing. And that really, it comes from my theater experience and writing monologues and speaking directly to the audience, that you experience it with the reader. So the whole time I'm writing, I'm thinking about the person on the other side of the book and how they're gonna.
And I just want to mention that I've met Kimberly on Bookstagram, and we've actually just met the first time at our book club.
Yes.
But ever since I read both of her memoirs, I feel like we're best friends. I feel like I know all of her intimate secrets.
You do know most of them, yes.
You did such an amazing job by doing that. I felt like you were in my living room having a conversation with me.
Oh, I'm glad.
And walking me through both these books. Now, both of these books are really different, right? In your first book, you talked about your experience with a stroke that you had.
Yes.
And you had preluded, I want to say that giving birth was a whole nother story.
Yes.
So is that what inspired you to write this one?
5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, I had a stroke, and that led to I'm a Little Brain Dead. And in the process of writing that, there were a lot of medical experiences, obviously, and I had some journals, and I started writing, and I started thinking about these other sort of major experiences I'd had, and apart from the birth of my children, that was the only other time I was in a hospital.
Thank goodness.
Right, thank goodness. So I had actually started writing Birth and Other Surprises before I'm a Little Brain Dead, but I didn't know that it was going to be a book. It was like my journals and kind of essays and my thoughts and things I observed about my children and the experience. And then when I finished I'm a Little Brain Dead, I realized that I had a whole lot of information that didn't go in that book and needed its own. Birth really needs its own, its own thing.
And you know what? Now that you say that, I completely understand what you mean when I'm reading it. So something really unique about your book is that I can just open it to any page, any chapter, and I'm getting like a bit of a short story, a snippet, like you said, little thoughts and insights. So is that why you wrote it that way?
I did. I mean, I wrote it very specifically. You can read this book front to back, or you can skip around, and it is specifically written for people who are parents. I mean, my experience was there was no time. I'm not sure I read at all when my children were small, and so this book you can flip around. The stories are self-contained, the anecdotes are self-contained. There's some poetry in there, or you can read it front to back. If you're able to do that.
I started reading it front to back, right? But then I forgot where I was, and I picked it up and opened it. Wait a minute, and I said, oh, this totally makes sense to me.
That's so funny.
And so
I'm glad it works.
And it really did work, and I loved it. I loved how, some chapters are 1 to 2 pages, some are longer, right? But then, and every chapter has something different in it, like a little surprise. I don't know, it just seemed like such a cool way to read. Instead of the traditional way of having to read front to back.
Yep. I didn't want to force a parent into thinking they had to sit down you know,
Right.
go through it start to finish, and like, no, you can flip around, you can pick out the things that look interesting, or, you know, the things that are driving you crazy.
Or
you
just
know?
whatever you have time for.
Whatever
at
you have
that
time
moment,
for,
right?
just a
You're
little
looking,
poem,
just
a little, yeah.
So now that you've written this book,
Yes.
And you've written it, like your children are like a little bit older now.
Yes,
right?
my children are most of the book is about my early parenting.
Right. And do you think that if you had written it, you know, when they were younger, would it give you a different perspective, or is it because it works now because like you're looking at hindsight?
I don't think it could have gotten written while they were younger. In all honesty, I don't know that it really. I mean, it would have been like scribbling things, but actually formulating them into a cohesive book, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it would have happened. Yeah, I think that perspective would have been a lot different. You know, I got through it, you know, and hopefully enjoyed some of it. So.
Well, I love like just the hindsight insights that you're giving, right? Only someone who's lived through it, experienced it, can kind of go back and now laugh about it. I mean, there is a chapter on like poopy diapers where I think at the time you're probably like, oh gosh, right? But now you're looking back, that's pretty funny.
No, at the time it's overwhelming. I mean, at the time you're like, give me a hazmat suit because this is like, it's, you know, almost incomprehensible. Right. But every parent has that, you know. I mean, every parent has just I had a conversation on Twitter yesterday with a woman who literally had to ask her children whose poop is on the kitchen floor. This was an actual conversation she was having with her kids, and I'm like, yeah, that's real. That's real.
You know
that's real.
I think that books like this is a more real conversation on parenting. You know, a lot of my friends have had given birth, and I'm always looking for books to gift my friends. But a lot of it is just very dry. It's very informative. It's very the black and white. But when I was reading yours, it was such a breath of fresh air. It seemed like
thank
something
you.
I wanted to gift my girlfriend.
Oh, thank you.
That if she was going through something like that, it wasn't like do this, and this. There is no guidelines, but here's this, you know, this is funny way that I got through it.
Yeah.
Or it could help you. Like, is that what you were writing for? With the
I was hoping.
of?
I mean, there's a really old joke that you can raise a child by the book as long as you have a different book for every child, right? That's an old joke. I didn't write that joke, but I think it's the truth, and I think sometimes what gets what can get forgotten in all of it, right? Because you want to be a great parent, like you want to be such a good parent, is like, okay, just like take a breath, because there's another person involved, which is namely your child, you know, and they have a lot to say and a lot, you know, about how it all goes down. So and I also not terribly great at rule following, so you know, the idea of trying to find sort of a prescribed method that said like do this and then do this and then do that. You know, for me that's just not the way I live. So.
And you know what? I think people are starting to see like there is no perfect parenting, right? Like everyone just does what they need to do for their own family and what they feel is right.
I think I think the idea of perfect parenting implies that if you do X, Y, and Z, then you know X, Y, and Z will happen. And it's not actually a direct line. There's other human beings. There's other circumstances. So you have to kind of like relax a little bit, you know, and
Well, both of your books are. If you look at the matters, they're quite serious, right? You got a stroke and you gave birth, which is super
big deal, kind of a big deal.
The way that you wrote it, I just felt so fun. Like your anecdotes, your humor, your wit. Like, where does that come from? Like, you must have so much fun writing these books. Like, you must have a hoot, you know, while you're at your desk. Just
I do. I mean, I do. It's fun when I find something that I think is working, you know, and that it's gonna make sense, and that people are gonna read it and think, oh my gosh, me too. Like that's a blast. But yeah, I you know, you can laugh or you can cry, right? When something serious happens, and I firmly believe that when something really, really serious happens, right, it knocks you off the feet and it demands your attention, but then you have to sit and go, okay, but what can I do about it? Right? What can I do? What am I able to affect? And if you're able to affect something, then you do. And for me, 100%, especially with I'm a Little Brain Dead, managing my response to having a stroke and kind of everything that came out of it was about I'm gonna have a good time. I'm gonna have a good time.
And you have to read the book. I mean,
you know, no matter what, I'm gonna have fun.
Very little about strokes before I read your book, actually.
Okay.
And it was so far removed from me because I actually associate strokes with like maybe elderly people.
Sure, absolutely.
And when I met you, you're so young, and the fact that you had a stroke and it was just a normal day, in the morning in her kitchen, and she had a stroke. And what do you do after that? Where do you go from there? And what happens? You see those like TV shows, and you think it's like this, and this, but you really laid it all out.
Yeah, it's a very unique experience. I mean, because every brain is unique, right? So what I experience isn't exactly what somebody else experiences. But what I found out and didn't know is that actually 1 out of 4 stroke patients in the United States are under the age of 50.
Oh wow!
Because I always thought the same thing. It's an older, and when I do talks on I'm a Little Brain Dead, I get an elderly audience. That's who I get. Oh. And I was a mom with young kids. Yeah. Because people think, oh, that can't happen to me. Well, if you have a brain, it can happen. It can happen.
So jumping into Birth and Other Surprises, I got your book mail, and I was so lucky to receive a copy before the launch day. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Fun. It was one of the most funnest book mails I ever got. But tell us, I was blown away by the cover. Absolutely blown away, because it's like, how do I say this? It's just so lovely. It kind of embodies what you were saying about birth, and like, thank you to your uterus, thank you to what I've been through. It's a beautiful thing, but it's also like, it's a contrast of what birth could be. Yes. And then you're putting it on the cover.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit how you designed the cover, who you worked with.
Absolutely. I worked with an amazing designer. Her name is Amanda Crevier.
Hi, Amanda.
Yes, and she has a website. Maybe we can put her website link up. And she's awesome. And she went back and forth with me, I don't know, 100,000 times, because I wanted the book to be. I wanted the cover to be beautiful, and I wanted it to me. It's also one of the first jokes of the book, because we are told, right? Birth, you're supposed to feel like birth is like, oh my God, it's amazing, and the angels sing, and everything is like happy, and it's also perfect, and somehow, and I don't know why, but we're kind of being convinced that if it isn't this like, oh la la thing, that you've somehow, failed, or you've somehow, not, which is, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever. I say this in the book quite a bit, but it's really, mom is healthy, the baby's healthy, good birth. That's good birth. We're good. I don't care how you got there. So that was kind of it.
One of the first things, I'm like, this book is so beautiful, the cover is so beautiful. And I opened the book, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, there's like a lot of things behind, like giving birth, raising a family.
The real deal. The real deal.
Just when I opened it, I absolutely.
But it is pretty.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, she did a beautiful job, and she was my little cohort in crime, and our little.
Great collaborators. But you share a lot with us, in both books. So what did you edit out? I mean, because you're so candid,
really good question.
And you're so authentic. But going through the editing process must be quite the process in itself, right? How do you choose what to stay? And some of it's
a good
focused on
question.
your family, right?
Sure.
And your husband, your lovely hubby.
Lovely hubby.
Such a supportive figure in your life.
Yep.
Does he get some say onto like, okay, this is going to go in, or this isn't, or you're
He's kind of a miracle, because he's just like, do your thing.
Love it.
Yes. Yeah. No, he's amazing that way, and. So the editing is interesting. When I wrote I'm a Little Brain Dead, I'm a Little Brain Dead has very adult language.
Oh, yes.
Very adult language.
Very tasteful though. Still tasteful.
Because it's exactly what was in my head, right? It's literally exactly what I'm thinking when I'm going through this. And so for that book, I kind of chose early on to be very careful, and I didn't want to edit, I didn't want to like clean all of that stuff out of it, because I wanted it to be authentic. I really wanted it to be as if you and I sat down and I told you this story. Okay, here's what happened to me. Da, da, da. So the editing process was more really structural and really technical, because I'm trying to tell a story in a particular way. I'm hopefully trying to entertain you, maybe make you laugh. So it was very technical in those terms. But in terms of what I share, I don't remember thinking, oh, I can't say that.
XYZ.
Or I can't. I shouldn't share that. I have certainly wondered in certain chapters how people would react. I've definitely thought, I wonder how people are going to respond to that.
Right.
But it didn't really occur to me to be like, so I should take it out.
But I think those are the memorable parts, The ones that you.
Well, I hope so. That's the honesty, right? I mean, that's the honest.
Did you read this part? Did you get there yet? Or and things like that. That's the stuff I take away, and when I share tidbits with my girlfriends, or when I recommend a book, I'm like, okay, wait till you get to this part, right? And so I was curious because you're very candid, you're very authentic in your writing. So I wanted to know, what was the editing process like for her? You have been writing your whole life. It seems like you've been, you have.
Yeah, I think writers do. Yeah, I think we just rewrite all the time, right?
Early experience where you had learned that writing and words had such power.
Oh, well, I was a bookworm. I mean, as I'm sure probably anyone watching this is a bookworm, right? It's kind of the point. So I think it was for me, and reading was an escape. Absolutely. When I was little, my parents would laugh because they would try to have conversations with me,
right?
And like my literally nose in a book. Yeah, like that was my response. Yeah, that was it. Kimberly, we're leaving. Yeah, like nothing. I mean, I just. So I was always nose in a book, and then writing. The earliest quote unquote book I remember writing was a complete wish fulfillment thing. A girl who looked exactly like me wakes up one morning and there's a pony, in her yard. What? Yes. So which didn't work, by the way. They did not get me a pony.
You should revisit that.
I should revisit that book. I should rewrite that book and give myself a pony. Yes, it was amazing. And I mean, right down to I had figured out where the stall would go in the yard. We lived in the suburbs. Where's the stall gonna go?
Right.
And
if it's written down, it might happen.
It might. Yeah. I guess. Nowadays they would call that putting it out to the universe, right?
Yeah,
you're putting it out. Just putting it out there. Anybody wants to buy me a pony,
so
I'm
funny.
totally cool with that.
You also seem to have a really transparent relationship with your children. I love that you say, we just say whatever.
Kids.
We just say whatever's in our home, right?
Poor kids. I can't.
I think that's completely awesome, right? Like there's a lot of parenting before. I mean, I grew up in a time where my parents were really formal with me. So it's really refreshing to hear that you're very open and communicate with your kids. So what do you think they're going to think when they grow up and read this, or when they when they kind of grasp what the concepts are in this book?
Yes.
What do you think their reaction will be?
Well,
you have a boy and a girl.
I
right?
do.
So
I have one of each. My teenager has read both books.
She's a star.
She laughs at me. She is a star of the first one. She's a hero. She's a hero. So it felt only right to let her read that. What do I think that they're going to think? Well, hopefully they'll laugh. They'll probably tell me I'm full of it, right? They'll call me, I'm sure they will call me on every inconsistency that is in there.
Right.
But I grew up, this is the kind of family that I grew up in. We were, I'm Italian, Irish, and French, but I was raised mostly Italian, right? It was mostly my Italian family that I saw. Very loud, very opinionated. We were at the dinner table, everybody had something to say, and our parents let us say it. We were very, and it wasn't like that in every house we visited, but in our house, everybody was kind of involved.
Fostering your creative mind. They're fostering
and I don't even pretend that it was some planned thing, because it was the 70s. Nobody planned this stuff. Nobody did. It was whatever. But we were just loud. We were loud and we were involved, and I think absolutely that had an impact on my thinking. One, that I had something to say,
right.
And that it was worth listening to, right? And so we have a pretty high volume dinner table, I would say.
And your parents, that's great for them. You'll have your parents reading it and your kids reading it.
Yeah, I was reading some of it to my folks the other day. They were laughing because there's a lot of stuff from the 70s. There's a lot of stuff from my childhood in the 70s, which is so different.
I enjoyed that too, because you can see the contrast.
Oh yeah.
Of what growing up.
It was
then and opposed to now.
I'm raising my children in a very different way.
Yeah. But there is a chapter where you talk about. Basso's 10 Rings of Judgment.
The Rings of Judgment.
And no spoilers too much.
Yes.
Why do you think that is nowadays? Why is there so much more judgment than there was back, I'm sure in the 70s, everything seemed more relaxed, everyone was more cool, but nowadays, you have listed them out, and it does seem why do you think that is, that parenting is more judgmental nowadays?
I think we have access to each other's lives the way we never have, honestly. And some of it is self-perpetuated, right? Because here we are on camera, hi, right, doing our thing, right? And some of it is think some of it is a natural reaction. In the 70s, we were not as judgmental of each other, but we also didn't talk. There were things we didn't talk about, right? There were things that you just didn't say. There were social issues that you just didn't discuss. And so it wasn't all, it wasn't all like rainbows and glitter. So I think, there's good sides and bad sides. But yeah, we are, for some reason, really seem to be very judgmental. And, I mean, I think it always comes from, your own, whatever your own insecurity is, right? Because maybe someone is just sharing something awesome, but you're feeling like, I'm not feeling so great about that part of my life right now, so I feel like I'm judging her or she's judging me because I don't have that or whatever, and that, that I think that lends to it. So I try to be, really like the chapter on realish.
I love there's just little reminders like, hey, this is just my insights. It's just that, you like I said, when you read a lot of parenting books, it's like, do it like this, or, this is what's worked in the past. But what I liked is that I felt like, okay, I can take tidbits of what you're saying, and kind of mold it into maybe what works for me and my family.
Which of course is what you're going to do, right? Which is what you're going to do with anything, right? That you're going to read, right? You're going to make it your own, hopefully. And so if something is useful, that's awesome. If nothing else, if you read this and you think, oh, I can do better, I can be a better parent than that, no problem. Then
But
I feel
so one of the things is Basso's 10 Rings of Judgment, and I love how you named it that way. But this book is really interactive. Like, I love the spirit animal of parenting.
Oh, that's fun, right?
So, like, kind of picking your spirit animal, like, if you're this, then you might be this. So, going on that thread, what would your spirit animal be as a writer?
Oh my God.
I mean, like, as a writer,
is there like some? I'm trying to think, like, what's the most chaotic animal there is? Let me think of what it would be. It would probably have to be something in the like macaque, like the chimp kind of like troublemaker. Do you know what I mean? Like entertaining, but causing some problems. Probably stealing your sunglasses, like that kind of. I think I'd have to really think.
Well, just envisioning you at your desk writing with like your multiple glasses,
my only glasses,
all the things going on. But what is your writing space like?
My writing space is very similar to this. Is that we're sitting at a giant wooden table. I have a wooden table in my dining room. I live in a tiny little cottage, so I don't have a separate office, and so I have to be able to sort of sit down, focus, and get to work. And so when I am creating, I sit on the side of the table that faces the window, and when I am editing and doing promotional or other kind of work, I sit on the other side of the table.
I love these author tidbits, like how to
that's my,
that's
just me though. I mean, hopefully you have an office or something.
I love it. What do you hope for readers to take away from this book?
Well, the baseline, truly, like I said, is that you'll read it and be like, oh, I can be a better parent than Kimberly. Like that would be the low line. That would be the low line, right? The baseline. But no, I hope that people will. I hope that people will think a little bit about being a child. Like when you're a parent, it's important to remember what it's like being a child, which is why I have all of the information about when I was a child in the 70s, right? Because of course that shapes how I think, but it's important to remember that perspective. One of the most enlightening things I ever did, my daughter was fascinated with cameras when she was really little. She was like 2 or 3 years old. And so we had one of those little digital cameras, and we gave it to her and she took pictures and we looked like giants.
She's just like,
she's just taking pictures like this is how she saw the world, and I thought, oh my gosh. So hopefully you can think a little bit about how your little alien is seeing the world, and truly, hopefully that you enjoy it. Enjoy it, because why else are we here, really, right? It's up to
enjoyable. It is. I just love reading a book that I never know what I'm going to get, and I don't know what I'm going to get with you, but all of it is good.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Let us know where we can purchase your books on February 20th.
Okay.
Either Birth and Other Surprises or I'm a Little Brain Dead.
Sure.
Where can readers purchase your books?
So the first thing I want to talk about is indie bookstores. Like we're here in Bel Canto Books in Long Beach, which is Awesome. So you can go to indiebound.org and you can get it through any local indie bookstore that you have. And then it's available at all the big retailers. There's a little place called Amazon. There's a little place called Barnes and Noble. Just small places. But it's basically available actually worldwide. So
that's really
it should be really easy to get to.
Would you consider doing an audiobook version of it?
I'm in the process. Yes,
I would love to hear that, like told from your point of view.
Laugh my way through it.
Love it. Yeah. And I read that you're currently working on a young adult series.
I am. It's a little. What can I tell you?
There?
It's So it's my first fiction novel, and I'm playing with it right now. There's some supernatural things in it. There's kind of a whole theater element. So it's kind of an adventure thing for like theater nerds, I guess.
So spectrum is everywhere. I mean, you're, like I said in the beginning, you are wearing many creative hats.
Many hats.
And I can't wait to read more from you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to link below the indie bookstores as well, and as well as Bel Canto, where we are today in this lovely space. Congratulations on Birth and Other Surprises. We're really excited for you. Launching February 25th, 2020. I'll leave all the links below so you can pre-order or purchase your copy for yourself or your girlfriends. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's great. Bye guys. Hi, I'm Kimberly Davis Basso, and I invite you to read my new book, Birth and Other Surprises. I think you'll have fun.